Hugh Hefner, a true American icon, created an empire that was unrivaled.
Although some of his bunnies may have gone rogue, it's because of the love and respect that we received from the man behind it all.
The Rogue Bunnies' mission is simple: 100 playmates taking control of their valuable IP, while honoring Hef's iconic Playboy style and bringing that experience to our collectors.
Like only we know how. Because after all, we did learn from the best.
Relive the stories from the most prominent celebrity home in history.
From those of us that lived it,
The employees that worked it,
and the guests who loved it.
And
the mayhem continues.
And we are doing a... You're just doing a time clock in the background. Scott Ramsay doing the time clock.
Syncopated clock. Excellent.
We're once again having a blast. We are in studio, Rogue Bunnies Mayhem. I'm Brian Olea.
I'm Victoria Fuller.
Jennifer Pershing,
Scott Ramsay.
And we have the one, the only from the Mansion days, Video Andy, Andrew Schwab. What up, dude?
Hey, man, what's up? How are you?
Dude, I'm so happy that you're here, man. Thanks for coming in, man.
You know, honestly, you know how shy I am even behind the camera on the mic.
Come on, dude.
No, I'm serious. Like, you guys are the only people who could get me down. Everyone's always trying to get me to participate in creating outside of, you know, as a guest or in front of a camera. So being on the mic, it's an honor. Thank you.
Oh, we appreciate it, dude. I don't know if you've been listening to the show, but we've been having like a lot of Mansion staff come on. We just had Kim Garrett, security. He did it.
Legend.
We had Carlina, Alan. We've had a lot. Plus, of course, we've had the ladies, you know, all the playmates. And we're just talking about the big family that we had up at the Mansion. And, dude, you were there from what time to what time? What were your years?
I want to say like around 2007, probably in the spring. I started coming up there. I had a big VW Eurovan, and I met John Collado running the video department. Met the GM. What's his
John
name?
Luther.
John
Yes.
Luther, right? Yeah. Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. Didn't mean to forget about you, John. And then I ended up meeting you and, you know, everyone else up there in the Mansion. But yeah, around 2007, I think.
How'd you even start at the Mansion?
That's a funny one. So I was in LA for a while, and I was working in the Universal Hilton as audiovisual tech. The girlfriend at the time, I had driven a baby blue VW Eurovan across the country with a large dog and pretty blonde girlfriend, and we landed in Los Angeles, and she and I had broken up while I was an AV tech at the Universal Hilton. I was living on Gower, just south of Sunset, behind the Gower Gulch, if you guys are from Los Angeles.
over by the Denny's.
Yeah.
Where they filmed Married with Children.
Yeah.
Yep.
Back then it was cheap to live in LA, right?
Yeah.
Like I had a big apartment for like $1,000 or something.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
But it wasn't so cheap on an AV hourly, you know? So when my girlfriend broke up and moved back east, I needed a job. So where'd you go in the aughts when you wanted to find a job? I went to Craigslist. And when I looked on Craigslist, I'm reading Craigslist, and then I see this ad, and it's like audio visual broadcast camera for the chairman emeritus of Playboy Enterprises. And I'm like, chairman emeritus? I'm like, that's a weird thing to say. Then I'm like, wait a second. That's like Hef. Like Hef's the chairman emeritus of Playboy. Like he's the old
Craigslist.
school.
On Craigslist.
So it's Craigslist, right? So, but
Really
this is
weird.
the catch. That sounds funny, right? I pick up my resume and I look at the job description, and it's like broadcast camera, check. Like linear editing back then we had to do, check. Projection, because I'd been being an AV tech at the Universal Hilton, because back where I'm from, you don't get projection jobs or anything. But in LA, it was easy. What's hard to get is paid for being a cameraman in LA. You know what I mean? Because everybody's a cameraman.
Right.
So I pivoted from an East Coast cameraman to a West Coast AV tech, and the resumes just matched up. I called my brother. I go, dude, guess what? I'm about to go work for Hugh Hefner. I'm going to the Playboy Mansion. I'm like, look at this. You know, I sent him the stuff. He's like, oh, you got this. Okay, so it was Playboy Corporate who had put the ad out, and I had to go see some recruiter. And the recruiter was like, I saw that you worked in Sprint in 1997. I want to talk to the line manager from that job. And I had to go through like this whole process through corporate
Of course.
to get vetted to work there. And then I got up there that day and I met John Luther. I met John Collado, shout out, who hired me, who was Hef's main AV guy since the 70s, who used to go on the Black Bunny and fly to service the televisions.
Wow.
And he serviced, what was it, 8600 Sunset? I don't know. Maybe Scott remembers back in the day. Hef had a penthouse on Sunset Boulevard, right on the strip. And there was a Playboy club on the bottom. So this John Collado, old school, I went and met him and I asked him, how did I get here? And he's like, oh, well, everyone's either trying to be like a filmmaker or something. You know, they have like way too much experience and you kind of just threaded the needle here. So he's like, do you want the job? And I'm like, absolutely. I think he thought it was a little bit weird when like my big dented Scooby-Doo Shaggy bus VW Eurovan came up, you know, and I was pretty sure I was wearing a suit like I always did when I got to LA, and people would always be like, this guy wears a suit to a job interview, you know what I mean? But so they gave me a bit of a hard time and I got the job and the rest is history.
Wow.
You can
That's
read the book if you
awesome.
want to hear the rest.
We're-
Book coming out.
we're just sitting here slack-jawed. Craigslist.
Yeah,
Wow.
That's amazing.
But I
Never
feel
would've
like that's
expected.
such a meant to be story.
Right.
Like,
it is.
you know, like people probably saw that in Craigslist and they're like, I don't even know what these words mean. And it was like meant for you. You're like, yep, jumping on that.
It was.
Yeah.
I wasn't very like spiritual at the time, but if I was like looking for coincidences or synchronicities, I think that it was matched up.
Yeah.
How long did you work for the mansion?
Like 10 years, better part of a decade.
It's very interesting, Craigslist, right? Because everyone else at the mansion was brought through a family member or a real
Yeah.
close friend.
A real
Oh.
close referral.
And that's how you were brought in, because they figured you weren't going to bring someone in to screw up your own position.
Right.
So you that's how you vetted people.
Oh,
And there's
wow.
like, I've had all my entire family.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, my sister, both my sisters, my sister Jennifer still is at the mansion with the new company taking care of the animals.
Yeah.
I've even had my mom work there. Michael,
What's
a
it, like,
photographer, videographer. He was
Brian's
a butler.
wife worked
Yeah,
up there.
yes,
Like, yeah,
yes.
like
To hear, I never knew this about Craigslist. That's crazy.
Yeah,
And it
crazy.
is crazy, and it was a synchronicity, but there's so much more to that, and that's,
I mean, that's such
what
a
I wanted to tell
such
you.
a risk.
When you say that, like, someone always brings you into the mansion, I think again.
Right.
So the girl that I moved to California with, she had gone to SFU, and she said, hey, I have a roommate who dated a guy who worked at the Playboy Mansion. We can get you a tour there. Now, this is before I ever worked there, years before I ever worked there. And so then we did end up getting a tour. It was Brian, is who was the
Wow.
Brian
boyfriend.
Horowitz.
Yeah.
Okay.
that's so fun.
You know, we're gonna be doing a show with him
You
soon.
probably
Where is he?
did the tour though, and you're like, this is awesome.
Yeah, well, that was amazing, but that wasn't it. So then my friend Pablo Jacob was he's a lawyer at MTV International at the time, and a concierge service calls him up and they say, hey, do you want to join our concierge service? We're having a party at the Playboy Mansion, and he's in Miami, Florida, and he says, I can't go, but if you show my client courtesy, I'll certainly consider joining your concierge service. So he calls me up and he says, do you want to go to the Playboy Mansion? And I said, yeah, absolutely. He's like, okay, well, you get a +1. And again, the same girlfriend who I moved to LA with, I was like, I'm not going to she got me a tour at the mansion. I'm not going to go to the Playboy Mansion and try to hit on chicks or something. So we went out, we got her address, and I brought her with, and it was a blue night, and all the bunnies were dressed in blue.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, and it was
That was
remember
my
this?
bunny. That was my bunny color.
Ah.
Blue.
A blue party. I'm not sure I remember that.
It was all blue. It was really small. It was only grotto side. So from an AV standpoint, it would have been Brian if you asked me to do sound.
What year was that?
So
Do you
we
remember?
get out the Ramsay, huh?
What year?
That would have been like 06, probably 05, 06.
You're just about to say Rams up PA speakers.
That's why you don't remember.
Ram says, yep.
I don't think I was a part of that one.
You guys are both geeking out over there. I love it.
Oh, we're going to start talking about Sony 1272Q projectors.
And I'm going to take that opportunity to get more tequila.
Talk about geeking out,
kidding,
right?
kidding.
So you got brought up, like we were talking about John Collado. John Collado had been there since the 70s, right? When you came up there and you saw the consoles that were at the side of Hef's bed, like, I mean, really freaking cool. You guys had to make sure these things kept running because the boss wasn't about to change things out.
No. I mean, there were some technology upgrades. Like, I think they threw touchscreen panels on them. We won't geek out on that too much. But the old servos, buttons and everything to raise the curtains or to raise the screens, right? Or to turn the lights on and off. Well, that's the interesting history of the video department at the Playboy Mansion. Because there used to be like 12 different technicians and they'd have to solder each circuit and they'd have to build the switches and the servos in order for the mansion to work, because that was the technology back in the 70s, and then in the 80s we get transistors. I guess they've been around a while, but you're starting to see them, come in, and eventually obviously he gets a touch panel and, he goes HD, and I guess now he'd be 4K Well,
I just remember the bed, right? You'd have to take the whole bed out. There was like some mechanics on the bed that would actually move the bed out. Or was it, it would move the bed out so you could then lift the lid up, because you had a lot of the mechanics, because he had those projectors.
Yeah.
Like those old school projectors on the big screens that he had up in front of his bed.
Correct.
But then you made those more modern, but they were still like a connection of the old world with new world.
It was like an AV closet back there. There was like some equipment that we needed to run it. But what we had is we had two projectors, and they project up kind of from the foot of his bed, right? So they probably got adjusted out. And then on the top, he still had all the CRT screens, all the old televisions from the 90s.
Yes.
And then on the left, he had this cool touch panel that like ran to a controller, like an AMX or whatever, and then he could choose everything. But the interesting part about the Playboy Mansion was that it had its own antenna system. So we would actually program for Hef. So like if he wanted to watch,
that was the antenna out by the tennis court.
You mean those big giant satellites?
Those were the C-band dishes, and those eventually probably became obsolete, but those were really cool.
Yeah, I remember those big
out
huge
by the
dishes
game
out
house.
by the tennis
court.
Yeah, tennis court, right? And you'd see right next to it was the teepee that was Marston and Cooper's teepee that they used to play in.
Yeah, those were
with the
put
orange
in for
grove
a
in that
game.
back area.
Those were put in for the satellite dishes were put into for the Holyfield.
I think it was earlier than
Or-
that.
I think they were there beforehand.
What's the fight
we
where he knocked him out and the pictures inside of the game house?
Oh no, that's just a picture. You're talking about Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
That wasn't there at the tennis court.
I know
was a
it wasn't,
picture.
but wasn't it broadcast in from those? That was the fight that was broadcast in.
I see what you're saying.
That's
To
why
be
he got
bunch
broadcasted
of
so we could
fights.
watch it.
Yes.
Yeah, because the boss was a huge boxing fan.
Huge, yeah.
But wait, I thought you were talking about like when Butterbean did the boxing
I'm talking
on the
about-
tennis court. Remember that?
I was
talking
not
about-
there for that, but that is cool.
I'm talking about because that picture was in
Got
the game
you.
house, because that was the thing that they brought those satellite dishes
see?
into.
Again,
I did the
more
tours a
knowledge from the
lot.
tours. Yep, the
I
Playmate
mean-
tours.
Yeah, they did a lot. And before they had the C-band dishes, they used to have to bring in the truck. And that's when in the really famous fights.
The Butterbean.
that's
and
so
all of the
cool,
really
man.
big fights. So yeah, they did that. That was boxing was big, and we did boxing in the backyard, right?
Yep.
A bunch.
Yep.
And then the one time they did UFC in the backyard, I remember Hef didn't like it very much. He thought it was too violent. He liked the boxing.
he liked boxing.
better.
He really
liked
wasn't into the
boxing.
big
Probably
cage
reminded
sports.
him of mosh pits.
We're just laughing because we did a show a while back. We were doing Metallica,
Oh,
and
nice.
there was a scene where where the boss went up to the front of the stage, and that's pretty fun. Everyone needs to tune into that show. It's good. It's a
Yeah.
funny one.
Yeah, but a mosh pit broke out at the mansion.
And Hef was in the
and
middle.
Hef had to be evacuated from the mosh pit
Are you
by
serious?
security.
Yeah, that was
Oh,
crazy.
wow.
You got to listen to that show. It's good. So from like what you and I got to really work together, we would
Right.
do a lot of the big parties,
Yeah.
and we all had our job positions for an event, and we would close it down. And you had to keep the DB levels. Was it 98 DB? I think it was. You had your meters.
95,
Yeah,
sometimes we'd let it go a little bit higher, but yeah, we weighted it nice and we pushed it as far as we could. But yeah, that was the litmus test, right? When I got brought in, I thought they're going to hand me a a shoulder camera and let me go like run around the mansion. And first day, the first party, they like hand me a sound meter. And if you guys don't know what a sound meter is, it just reads like decibels. So you can know how loud the sound is. And so I would have to interface like with the cops if they came to the party and let them know the readings throughout the night. And I'd have to go out. I don't know who was the elderly lady who lived on the back for many years. Do you remember towards by the tennis courts?
I don't remember her name. Ellen DeGeneres ended up buying that house when she passed away. Yeah,
true.
But I don't remember her name. I know who you're talking about.
The sound would bounce over the base.
Yeah.
Would kind of bounce over the Playboy Mansion and it would go to the other side and kind of hit her house. So I'd be in the back. It was a huge party. People dancing everywhere, beautiful women, open bar, all, any food you can imagine. I have a key to the front door of the place and every other door. And I'm in the very back by myself at a party, like listening to the sound with a sound meter, like making sure the old lady next door isn't going to lose her sleep. So that's how it started. And eventually I worked my way into being in the booth with Hef, with the camera, like filming the parties. So I had a unique position there that I really got to like get involved with Mr. Hefner on so many levels, like showing the movies, filming him, being in the interviews, always being the camera to document him if it was an outside camera.
Yeah, I want to touch more on that, like because you had a personal one-on-one working relationship with him.
Yeah,
and we're going to talk about where your office was.
Right.
Let's take a quick break. We're going to be right back. We are Rogue Bunnies Mayhem.
Hi, I'm Victoria Fuller, Miss January 1996. My bunny sisters and I have joined forces, or should I say, have gone rogue, to revamp the heydays while forging forward into the future. Yes, I'm talking about the metaverse. So come join me and our sorority of the sexiest ladies on the planet. I promise you won't be disappointed. To join the party, find us at roguebunnies.com. That's ROGUEBUNNIES.com. Get in the game. Build your collection. Go to roguebunnies.com. You'll find us there.
Welcome to the metaverse.
Andy, this is really cool that you're sharing with us, and I can't thank you enough. Because like you said, you like to be behind the camera, not being in front. And so we put a mic in front of you, so thank you, man. But you think about what you wanted to be when you were a kid. And next thing you know, you're at the back of the Playboy Mansion, like you're saying, with a meter while this big party's going on. I mean, there you are. But you had an office with John Collado. The video department was literally an attachment of his upstairs office, which was part of his bedroom. And like you had a door that he would just come in and out on.
Yeah.
What was that like?
I can confirm that is true.
Oh, and by the way, the best air conditioning in the entire mansion.
It was freezing up there.
Oh, wow.
So cold. Yeah, so our office was upstairs and have had like, what was it, little spiral staircase that went up. And that was like over 20,000 titles. When you got up there, it was just like video room. Well, first he would lay out all the magazines up there and like you see the picture of him. I think Victoria's talked about it before with his legs crossed or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
You've seen it on the bed, but that was one place where I would like see, and that's where he would work. And then it would go to video vault, video vault, video vault. And on the ending of the video vault was the door, and my desk would face the back of that door. So like when Hef wanted something, you just kind of maybe hear some feet patter down the hallway and then
Like a shuffle?
up. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but you didn't have the wood or the marble that we had downstairs to know when he was coming.
Yeah.
You had the carpet.
It was carpet, so you had to be fast. I got a story about that. If you worked at the Playboy Mansion, then one thing you always did is ate really well. Like they took really good care of you there. So before,
I was just gonna say, you look really good, dude. You lost weight as well.
Yeah, I think everybody did.
Anymore.
Well, when you can't order whatever you want from the kitchen, you have to
need work help. No, just kidding. But yeah. So, anyways, they were cooking. I guess it was Thanksgiving this time, but like for all the holidays and stuff, all the chefs, shout out Rudy, were cooking the pre-Thanksgiving Thanksgiving. And then we all kind of got to test it because everything had to be perfect at the mansion. So I got in late, got a plate of food, and it's like piling over with like, turkey and stuffing and mashed potatoes and great, but everything more than you could imagine, like anything, like and it's heaped on like crazy, like it's embarrassing how much food's on this. Like, it's not right. Nobody should eat that much. You know what I'm saying? And I run up the back stairs. They got these little back stairs, like,
Oh no.
you know, and
no.
and then I get up into the actual mansion. There was like a wing that was an administrative arm, and the stairs from like the kitchen would go up, and then you could keep going up to the 3rd floor, and then there would be the scrapbook archive.
Yes. Yeah,
Shout
yeah,
out Steve.
Yeah, Steve
and
Martinez.
then it would open up. So I run all the way through this gauntlet of content with my plate, and I open up several doors, and I sit it down on my desk, and I probably put something on the internet, or I turned on a bunch of TVs because I was late to work, and I was supposed to be like watching the news because at the time we had the Girls Next Door, and Hef was in the news a lot, and there was all these things going on. I was made it look like I was working, and then I was like, I'm ready to eat. I'm like ready to eat, and then the latch opens to the door, and Hef walks in, and he has just a stack of all these DVDs that people had given him gifts for, and he's just kind of going through his stuff. He knows Christmas is coming soon, and like he has to get through all the stuff from last year, and he's like, basically we had all these blue books, and forgive me for forgetting the name, but they're like the classic film history books, and anytime Hefner would get a film, we would go scan that document, we would get that description, we would put some of that information on a customized cover for him that was labeled and dated, because in the archive, when you had to show a movie, you had to find these DVDs, or you had to find these celluloid back in the day, whatever it was. In my day, it was DVDs. So we would label them, and we would file them, and they would be color coded, etc. So he came in with like a ton of commercial DVDs and was like, I need all this stuff done here. Boom. And he sits it down on my desk. My plate of food's on the left, and the giant stack of like 30 or 40 custom, commercial DVDs is to my right. And he tells me what to do, and he has a little bit of notes, and he gives them to me. And then he closes it. He doesn't say anything, closes the door closes, click. And I'm like, and then I hear the door open again, and he goes, chew it slowly.
That's amazing.
He didn't miss anything.
Yeah.
I mean, you're sitting there going, oh my gosh, does he see that? I got this big pile of food. And he doesn't say anything to you, but he's going to let you know he saw
so
it.
cute.
He saw that.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah. Anyways, now I'm giving up all my secrets.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
but
What a
that's
place to
this
have
is
an
what you do.
office.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to be somewhere right outside Hef's bedroom door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say to, do people ever ask, what was it like to work for him? What was, you had that one-on-one.
Yeah. I always respected Hef. I always got along with Hef. He reminded me a lot of my grandfather.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're both of the same era, World War II guys, both military. Hefner was in the
Army.
I was very pleased. I was raised in a military family, so I can hang out with anyone. I do know some people who used to get intimidated by Hef, people who had to work with him. But I never felt that. I just knew this is a guy who you don't mess around with. So if you make a mistake, own the mistake real quick.
Yeah.
And try to find a solution to the mistake. Then if you did that, you were good. And I can only think of one time ever really making a mistake. And he gave me a pass on it because we had been working together for many years. He didn't call me out on it that time. So, and that story's a secret. I'm not sure.
I love that you shared that about just being honest. Mary O'Connor always told him, she goes, Brian, because I had made a mistake. We all make mistakes. He goes, Brian, everyone makes a mistake. We're all human. Just don't ever lie. But if you own your mistake, just admit it, learn from it, and don't do it again.
Fix it fast.
Oh, yeah.
Have the solution.
It was always production at the mansion, you know what I mean? So you could put out fires, you'd have to put them out, you know what I mean? But I think fix it fast, and like you said, to your point, own it. That was, if you you'd get tested on that too. People would try to set you up to see if you're gonna blame somebody else. They'd know the answer to the question.
There were tests.
So it was you know what I mean?
And when you did own it, it was see, we told you he was loyal.
Yeah.
That's what's really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to talk about the parties.
Oh, no.
All right. People don't know about this. Check this out, ladies, right? So you know how late those parties go? Yeah. Of course you guys know, because you guys stayed after the parties. Closed them down. Next thing you know is tater tot galore in the dining room, right? Yep. Well, while all that was going on, you had to take all the footage that you had just filmed, because the boss would document everything. Like, every part of his life was documented every single day.
Right.
Then next thing you know, you guys are working through the midnight hours.
Yeah, I had to cut the news releases or dump like the raw to a DVD because Hef might check it in the morning. He used to check my content sometimes. He'd leave me notes. Man, I don't know how much I want to say on this podcast, but like he would have video notes for me. I'll leave it at that.
Well, he's a perfectionist and he knew what he wanted. Oh no, just like specific stuff. Like
we'll cut it out if we don't want it.
He would okay, like he would notice like certain things. Like if I would see a playmate in a suit and her bunny costume, and is that right? Bunny costume. I would pan from her feet to her ears, like as a movement or something. You know what I mean? He'd be like, "Don't do that. Just shoot the thing, like shoot it wide and then punch in on her." You know what I mean? Okay. So he had certain different things that he liked aesthetically on the video, and you couldn't do like whip pan edits or any type of like MTV edits. They'd cut you like right out of there. Like if you move the camera really fast, or if you tried to like do like make it look like some organic content, you know, it had to look like professional content.
But that makes sense though, because he's such a fan of the classics.
Exactly.
Like classic film. He would want you to emulate.
Because there is such a difference between a film that's like handheld camera to like a real, like, So he probably liked that classic.
Definitely.
Look.
And one of his other things that he really liked was the Playboy in the News show. So that was all the content that I shot of all the parties, all the interviews that he did. And then we'd send it to Table Rock and they'd have a actress do a voiceover on it. At the time, I think it was like a monthly show. They might have done it a couple times a month in the beginning time, but that was on the Playboy Network back then. So he loved that. And then to your point, he loved classic film. And I worked in the film archives. So I worked on his television show. I worked on his film archives. Wow. You
were just all in the mix. Like,
I think
all of it.
Not so much the magazine. And I know, he loved the magazine. He loved the women. So I guess, the whole vibe of it all, but definitely with the film and the thing. And then also, also getting in the booth with him and at the parties. And a funny thing about the party before I talk about this news releases or whatever Brian's trying to get to is when it wasn't.
I just want the meat, man. Give me the juice.
When it wasn't a Hefner party and the higher ups, like the John Luthers and the John Collados and the guys who have been there for like 30 years or whatever left. Yeah, Hank Fawcett, shout out for sure. Valley original out there. They would get, these guys have been at the mansion for a long time. And then physically that day and then in general, and they'd want to go home. So, sometimes if Hef was upstairs at like 10:30, they'd call over Brian and they'd call over me and they'd give Brian the keys to the mansion and be like, guys, you better not mess up. And Andrew, the music better be out at 2:30. And if we, if anything goes wrong, you guys are dead. And they'd all leave.
No pressure.
Yeah. They'd all leave. And Brian
was
would
all
look
in
at me and go, see you at 2:30. Bye. But no, Brian was working hard. We had to work hard to keep that.
But think about that.
Wow.
They literally handed the mansion over. Like John Luther, it was always joking, but they would look at it and they're just going to goes, "All right, kid, you got it." He goes,
there actual keys?
Take care of it. Well, no, we had
He
special
did
keys, but
Yeah.
but what he meant though
I
is
had the
that we
master
had
key.
the authority of how things were going to be shut down. Like it all ran through.
No, Brian
us.
was actually
and
in
we
charge.
just
of
did it.
It's
crazy.
Bunch of parties, and then I had to run the AV. And they would pull us over.
Because me and Andy would be on opposite ends of the party, and we're looking at it, and I'd look at him, and he'd look at me, and I'm like, we're shutting this down. And I'd look over, and I'd go, you go tell the DJ, and he'd look at the DJ, and then you could see the disappointment because they want to keep going.
Yeah.
And you're like, and then Andy, and I'm like, all right, you go do the dirty work. You got to tell him to start bringing that volume down.
Yeah.
And then I'd be looking back at him, and I'm like, are we going to have any problems? And he'd look at me, he goes, I got it. He gave me the look like, we're all good. And then it was fun. Then I look over at Manny.
I did that.
No, it did.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, and then we look at Manny, and Manny'd have the big white lights ready, and it was like a fun production at the end. We're like looking all around going, we're about to do this. Ready?
The ugly lights?
And I'm like sitting there going, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom. I look at Andy, bam, Andy go, boom, DJ, boom, bam, ew, music goes down, boom, look at Manny, boom, big white lights, boom, boom. Party's over, ladies and
Oh
gentlemen.
my gosh.
Have a
And
good
everyone
night.
screams because the lights are on.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
And that was true every party, too. Not just the ones when Hef wasn't asleep. Brian, that's how it would go at every party.
You had to.
Yeah. But we did do a couple soft closes, but not many.
maybe
the
a
soft
smaller
closes
parties.
were his personal parties.
Yeah.
You know, Midsummer Night Dream, Halloween, New Year's Eve. But when we had a lot of these charity events and stuff like that, it's like, look, we were under
People are
contract.
renting
We
the
didn't
mansion
have
from
to
this
keep
time to
going.
this time.
That was it.
They gotta
It was
get out.
done.
You don't want complaints from the neighbors, and then it makes it hard to have parties in general. So you'd have to.
And we were respectful with our neighbors.
Yeah.
It all worked it all out. But, you know, then all of a sudden it's done. It's like, now what? What's the infamous Andy Schwab up to now?
Oh,
I mean, you were doing TMZ for a while.
A lot of meditation. I did do TMZ for a long time. That was fun.
Meditation, TMZ. They go hand in hand.
Yeah. Well, afterwards, after TMZ, I took up meditation. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, TMZ was awesome. One thing I really remember about TMZ briefly, because this is not about TMZ, but it was like I felt like I was in the house and I got kicked out of the house and I had to hang out front. And I'd go to Craig's and I'd go to Craig's and I'd hang out and I'd see a lot of people from Playboy. And it was just cool. It was like never leaving Hollywood. And then I got to meet all these other celebrities. I can say this too because it's out there, I'm sure, on Entertainment Tonight. I think my first TMZ piece happened at the Playboy Mansion because Charlie Sheen had been like getting in a bunch of trouble in New York. You know what I mean? He was like holed up in some hotel room in New York and he was like all over the news and nobody had seen him. And then I was sitting up before like a Midsummer Night's Dream party and I was upstairs, you know, in the attic, in the video room. I got a call. Grab the camera and get to the Great Hall. Charlie's coming. And so I grabbed the Betacam SP and I ran downstairs. And just as the door's opening, I hit record and Charlie Sheen sees me and just starts going, no pictures. And he's grabbing the lens of the camera.
Which is awesome. That's exactly what you want.
Yeah, but if you knew Mr. Hefner, you knew that the number one rule is to make all the guests feel comfortable and never be a weirdo. And my heart stopped. I was like, oh my God, Charlie Sheen of all people is going to get me fired from the Playboy Mansion. And then when Charlie's done shaking the camera up, he goes, I'm just kidding, dude. Do whatever you want
He's
with
like,
that.
what was it? Was it hashtag winning? That was his thing back then.
Tiger blood. Shout out Tiger blood. Oh, and so yeah, we did PR video for the mansion and a bunch of public relations stuff, and we did it all, man. And that got cut in a video news release. That went to Entertainment Tonight, and Entertainment Tonight, they led that the next day with Charlie Sheen grabbing Hugh Hefner's camera saying no more pictures. And that was like the main story. And so I always say that was like my first TMZ clip. Thank you, Charlie and Hef for letting that happen. So yeah, TMZ, meditation, and then lately been working again back in PR and publicity.
But we ran into each other a year and a half ago, NFTLA, and I was trying to get into some party I was invited to on Melrose, and he goes, Victoria Fuller? And I was like, yeah. He says, it's me. And I was like, oh my God. And he goes, what are you doing out here? And I said, well, I'm waiting for someone. He goes, I'll get you in. So he got...
I didn't think she'd recognize me. I'm like, is that
I didn't at first because it had been so long. But then, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah,
so,
she's like waiting out there.
Yeah,
I was like, why is she waiting out
I know.
there?
I was like, I felt so dumb because I was like, I don't even know why I'm here. I don't even know what I was doing.
Like, do you want my autograph?
Yeah,
like,
and then,
how do you know my name?
Yeah, how do you know? I was freaked
Bunnies.
out. And then he got me in and he walked me around and introduced me to everybody important. And then we were in touch again after that. So yeah, it's so weird.
That was funny. Yeah, and that's all in the same thing. I think this content creation and the NFTs and the publicity and the promotions and the building community. And like you said, we're always Playboy family, and I think with the NFT stuff, that has to do.
I know, it's just weird that it came full circle like that. It's just like
no
it was
coincidences.
No.
Yeah.
And I don't go out ever, so
It's the family still taking care of the family.
yeah.
Yes, we're all still working together. Speaking of that, I have been working with a little bit deeper member of the Playboy family, if you can say it like that. And so I guess I can say it. Recently,
it's just us, bro. It's just us.
This
you
is
know,
a
we're just
safe
us in the room. It's a safe space.
Right.
We're in control here.
I mean, I guess I can say his name, right?
Yeah.
I've been lucky enough that after all those years working with Hugh Hefner, I've been honored enough to be able to work a little bit with his son Marston on a project.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
And
So you're in contact with him, right? Like.
He's got an OnlyFans. He's getting a lot of publicity.
Dude, can you get him to come on the show?
Marston?
Yeah. Do you think he'd do a call?
Oh man, he.
No
he
pressure.
might,
No
we
right?
can ask really
Can we
nicely.
try?
We can be very persuasive.
You want to ask him?
Dude, can you call him right now? See if he'll do it.
You want me to call him right now?
Yeah,
I mean, if he answers, he answers. If
Come
he
on, I
doesn't, he
helped
doesn't.
raise that kid, man. I've known him since he was like freaking 5. You know, I love it.
All
Hey,
right.
it's just coming up on his 1-year anniversary.
He
Dude,
was
you can
married
get
a
him
year
on.
ago, by the way.
All right. Let me try.
Okay, tell you what, we're gonna have to wrap this show up.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you're gonna make a phone call. I'm thinking you're gonna get him on, and dude, let's do another show.
Let's manifest
Let's-
it
let's
right
Oh
do it.
now.
look,
Come
I
on.
just texted him right now, and he says, "Yep."
Yes!
Hit him up, man.
Winning.
All right. All right. Well, we're gonna have to work on some stuff to figure this call out to get this in. We're gonna wrap this show up, and I guess we're looking like a part 2. We're bringing on Marston Hefner. You're staying in studio,
Yeah,
buddy.
you're not
This is
going
gonna be
anywhere.
fun.
Oh, I get a
Time
stay?
under the
Oh
chair.
yeah, hell
You
yeah.
have to.
Man,
Dude.
this is getting deeper.
I'm Brian Olea,
I'm Victoria Fuller.
Jennifer Pershing.
Scott Ramsay.
and we are here with Andy Schwab from the Playboy Mansion, and we're bringing in Marston Hefner on part 2. Don't forget, keep listening. We are Rogue Bunnies Mayhem. And
The mayhem continues.